Hello, Internet. So welcome to the next Skillshare of the Transformative Media Organizing Project. We are really excited today to be doing a Skillshare with Harlan Pruden from twospiritjournal.com. But before we jump into it, we're going to briefly go around and kind of introduce ourselves. So I'm Sasha Costanza-Chuck from the Transformative Media Organizing Project. Diana, do you want to say hi?
Sure. Hello, I'm Diana Nucera from the Detroit Community Technology Project, but also working with folks on Skillshare.
Jovan?
Hi, I'm Jovan Julian from Project South, and I'm here with the TMO project as well.
Angel?
Hi, my name is Angel Patterson. I am a youth organizer at Acknowledgments. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. And I'm a part of the TMO project.
Cool. So I'm happy to introduce Harlan Pruden, who's managing editor of twospiritjournal.com and has been a Two-Spirit activist for many years and has like an incredible record of organizing and activism and work. But if I read off Harlan's bio, it would take up the rest of our Skillshare. So we're just gonna kick it right over to you, Harlan, to get into it. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Sasha, and this is amazing to be here today. First of all, before I go any further, I must take some time to acknowledge that today is the Transgender Remembrance Day for all of the violence and or murdered and missing and just the path and the walk of our trans brothers and sisters. And so I would like to take a time to acknowledge that. Tanse, nitotemtik Harlan, waka no mani, Neha Ayakwe. Greetings, my relatives. My name is Harlan Pruden. I'm First Nations Cree. My mother is from the Beaver Lake Indian Reserve. My father is from the Saddle Lake Indian Reserve. Two different reservations, but the same Treaty 6, a Cree Nation, the best nation in the whole wide world. Today, we're going to be talking about Two-Spirit, who are Two-Spirit people within a historical and contemporary setting. Esperanza just joined us. Hi, Esperanza.
Hi. Oh, by the way, Graciela says hi.
Yo, please send my love to Graciela. An amazing, amazing activist. And I'm honored to be to share this time with her also. So for the Two-Spirit Journal, then what we will be talking about is the twospiritjournal.com and this community curriculum that we're developing for Native and or Two-Spirit community organizers. So with that, I am going to be talking very fast, and I apologize, but I want to basically try to encapsulate and give folks some sort of working information and working knowledge of who the Two-Spirit community is. My mic is dragging on my sweater. Cool. Is the PowerPoint up and ready to go?
Yeah, let me just pull it up in 1 second.
There we go. So, next slide, please. So the concept of Two-Spirit and or identity of Two-Spirits does not make sense unless it is contextualized within a Native American setting, frame, or community. And this is really important because it is the intersection of those individuals who are LGBT identified as well as self-identified Native American. And you have to have those two components to then claim the Two-Spirit identity. Oh, Esperanza, can you mute your mic?
Sure.
Perfect. Yay. And Within a traditional setting, pre-contact and even a little after first contact, it was a gender analysis as opposed to a sexual orientation analysis. Sexual orientation is today the framework that we use to organize, but really it is this gender analysis. Some nations had up to 6 different genders within their society, so it really challenges the binary gender system that we currently work under. And today most people associate the term with LGBT natives. However, the work of Two-Spirit organizations are more akin to this traditional understanding around gender. Next slide. A little history around the term Two-Spirit. Up into contact, a little after contact also, for those nations that had Two-Spirit tradition had our own words, and so we would have like men, women, and words for our male assigned Two-Spirit people and our female assigned Two-Spirit people, as well as those other words and concepts. And then a little after first contact, this nasty word was used. It was a French word named berdache. I'm not going to go into the history of that word, but it is kind of a very, very, not a very pleasant word. In 1990, at the 3rd annual Basket and Bow Gathering of Gay and Lesbian Native Americans, a grand talking circle was called, and the attendees of the gathering came up with the term Two-Spirit. And they wanted a term that represented or attributed to a combination of masculinity and femininity, which ascribed males in feminine roles and females in masculine roles. And you already see that the discussion is around your role, not who you're having sex with, and this like pivot away from sexual orientation. Next slide. Now, to understand that this is a gender analysis, what I did was I did a survey. I looked across Turtle Island, and I just picked and chose a couple of examples. I'm not going to go through all of the examples because of time, but like just I'm going to pick on the first one, mediators. And within the Cree Nation, my nation, we had 2 big societies or camps. We had the women's camp and the men's camp. A woman was never allowed in a man's camp, and a man was never allowed in a woman's camp. However, if there was ever any disharmony or discord or imbalance, you know, a man couldn't walk over to the woman's camp and a woman couldn't walk over to the man's camp. It was us as Two-Spirit people that had access to both of those camps because we were a combination of both masculinity and femininity. And we could go back and forth and we could restore balance or harmony amongst those 2 dominant societies. A straight man couldn't do it, a straight woman couldn't do it, only us as Two-Spirit people could do that. And so that's that thing around your gender role in your society as opposed to who you're sleeping with. And so that's this gender analysis. And then there were the examples are other ways in which that there were unique roles and functions for our Two-Spirit people that were different and that only we could offer those to our society. Next slide. Now I'm quickly going to go through this list, but I've collected about 180 of our terms of our Two-Spirit people and within our language. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Again. Again. And again. Once more. These words are incredibly important. Although we pan-organize around the term Two-Spirit, once someone comes in the door, what we do is we hand them their word and gift them their word. And we then support them in, like if you look at the Zuni for the male assigned Ilahamana, is we then try to support the individual in what does it mean to Ilhamana? What does it mean to be that? And so where there's a word, there's a history. Where there's a word, there's experience. But where there's a word, there's a people. And this is all about this reclamation and restoring our place of honor that we as Two-Spirit people had pre-contact. Next slide. Who are some of our Two-Spirit people of long ago? This is Otish, who was Crow, male-assigned individual, and I'm going to use the opposite pronoun just to cause a little tension, but if we were speaking in our Cree language, our third-person singular is it, but I can't use that because it's so jarring to the Western ear. Next slide. This is another male-assigned individual, Wiwa, from the Zuni Nation. There's a biography written by Willie Roscoe, details amazing life that Wiwa had. This is Hastin Kla, who is Navajo, and was this amazing Nadle individual. Hastin actually came up with a new way of weaving baskets that is still carried on today. So it was huge cultural implications and gifts that our Two-Spirit people gave to gave to their nations and their people. Next slide. This is Ozawadib, a male-assigned individual who is Anishinaabe, or you can say Ojibwe. And there is this really cool kind of backstory about this European interpreter named John Tanner, and there seems to be some sort of relationship. I would love to go back and to see tease out what that relationship was all about. Next slide. Now, I don't want you to walk away and think that this is only a male thing. One, because I'm a cisgender male, Two-Spirit individual that's doing all the talking, and all of the images are mainly about males. And that's because the white European, I'm going to assume heterosexual folks that were doing a lot of this documentation didn't honor their white women, and as a result never even paid our native women any mind. And what I'm going to show you is just, there's only probably about 4 images of our Two-Spirit women. And so I share that with you, but I just want you to know that our Two-Spirit sisters were always there and were honored and respected just like us male-assigned Two-Spirit people. So this is a Quechan individual, and he is wearing traditional male attire, and the image was taken in 1890. Next slide. Now, I don't know if this, there's a group of pictures in that back row, and if you go from the left to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 6th individual, and there's a strand of hair hanging over the, over to the right, one more. Perfect, right there. The little cursor there is, that's Lozen and their wife Dotasi, who were Hikara Apache. And this is a warrior woman that fought with Geronimo, and because it was a little bit of an anomaly, Lozen is referenced in many of the accounts, because why was this woman part of the warpath? And so we do have that individual's picture. This is the only known picture that exists of Lozen. Next slide. Now that all kind of came to an end. This is a famous, famous for us as Two-Spirit people. I don't know how famous outside of our world, but this is a picture of that hangs in the Spanish National Archives, and it accounts the story of Captain Vasquez Núñez de Balboa, a Spanish conquistador, who in 1513 was roaming around the land that we call Panama today, and found there were folks that were engaged in same-sex sexual relations, men, and what did he do? He rounded them all up and fed them to their dogs. And this sent shockwaves to the community. Then you now begin to see the introduction of the stigma that we as LGBT people are still fighting against even today, but it was even more pronounced at that time for us as Native Two-Spirit people. Next slide. Now, there is no way that you can make sense of the Two-Spirit experience unless we look at this picture and understand this, because we are Native first, then I think that we're all Native first, and that that's the over-encompassing identity for us as Native folks. This is a Carlisle Industrial School who opened in 1879, and this particular school closed in 1918. And about 70% of American Indian children were put into these schools and literally had their Indianness beaten out of them. If they were caught speaking their language, there's accounts of the officials, oftentimes church officials, I read this one account where this young male was caught speaking their language and had a pin drove through their tongue to teach them not to speak their language. You get that famous saying, you know, kill the Indian to save the man, and this is that forced assimilation. And so it's like no other folks, you know, were dislocated from their land, and literally the cultural genocide was imposed upon us as Native people. And that is really our experience. And if you look at this picture, you see all of the boys have short hair and are wearing pants. All of the girls have long hair and are wearing skirts. You know, there is no place within this image for our Two-Spirit people. They were literally wiped from the image, and this rigid binary gender system is imposed upon us as Native people. Next slide. So this is a PSA extolling the virtues of the school, and you can see this is Thomas More, and a picture was taken in 1874, before and after his the forced assimilation, where he was quite literally, his Indianness was beaten out of him. My question that I pose is, what was the price, and what did Thomas More had to pay to move from the left column to the right column? And I think that is a huge price. Next slide. So, you know, for Native people, we often talk about this concept of historical trauma. And for us, I'm not saying that we have a hegemony on historical trauma. You know, we look at the African diaspora and our African American brothers and sisters and their historical trauma, what we would call as, you know, the removal of their land, forced migration, and then slavery. We look at like the Japanese internment. That is the historical trauma for our Japanese brothers and sisters. We look at the forced labor camp of our Chinese brothers and sisters. And currently, this doesn't make sense, but like the current debate that you see happening for our Latino brothers and sisters of like who is an American, who stays here. You have that absolutely silly word of an anchor baby. That is our Latino brothers and sisters' current historical trauma. And so we need a definition, and so this is a definition that I think sits with us really well. And it is a combination of immense losses and traumatic events that are perpetrated upon an entire culture through policy and upheld by a judicial system. Now, a historical trauma is not like Superstorm Sandy coming in and wiping out the Rockaways. There is much intentionality that is done to do this, and it is done through policy. For Native people, these include the losses of culture, language, land, people from diseases and wars, ways of life, economic systems, ceremonies, and family structures. And what I did was I resisted the temptation of putting a separate bullet point for Two-Spirit people, because what we've already kind of briefly talked about is how we're in the culture, we're in the language. When Otish, that from the Crow individual, when Otish went to meet their creator, their body went back to the land. We are literally in the land. And people from ways of life, economic systems, ceremonies, and family structures. The last point is an incredibly important point in that your family structures are your key building blocks for society. And if that is under siege and under attack through the residential boarding school, how do you build a healthy society when your building block is being eroded? And what for us as Two-Spirit people, we're in all of that work. We're everywhere, you know. And so I just share that with you all. Next slide. So really quickly, what is being done to bring back the role of our Two-Spirit people? In 1979, there was the founding of the Gay American Indians in San Francisco, the first organization of its kind that was Randy Burns and a bunch of other leaders came together and started that consciousness. There's the Bay Area American Indian Two-Spirit Society, the second oldest organization, and that again is in the Bay Area, and it hosts an amazing powwow. And if you're ever in the Bay Area in like March or February, I would encourage you to go to that powwow. There are Two-Spirit societies across Canada and the United States, and Two-Spirit people are being included in these amazing discussions, just like today's event, as well. And so I stand and I say that you are now a part of this reclamation and restoring of our place of honor and respect for our Two-Spirit people. There are Two-Spirit drums that are hosted across, exclusively Two-Spirit drums that are across the country. And there's also welcoming back to our reservations. And finally, there are many national and international Two-Spirit gatherings across Canada and the United States that is a part of this community organizing effort for us to come together as Two-Spirit and Native people and to kind of celebrate who we are as Two-Spirit people. Next slide. So, what else is being done, a part of this, is the launching of the twospiritjournal.com. And this is, again, for the, a part of this initiative is that rather than waiting for Native and or mainstream or LGBT press to cover who we are and put a face and a voice to the Two-Spirit community, what I've decided to do is to launch our own Two-Spirit journal so that we can start documenting and putting a face and a voice to who we are as Two-Spirit people. So twospiritjournal.com is a multi-platform, interactive Two-Spirit news site that covers current events and what is going on in the Two-Spirit community. And although what we have up online right now is basically our first iteration of that, and we're working out a little bit of the bugs and we're smoothing it all out. So it will be changing in a little bit. Next slide. So what I would like to do now is to talk really quickly about the Skillshare. And I know that I went super fast, only because it's just a matter of time. And we only just not even grazed the surface, we kind of flew over the surface of who we are as Two-Spirit people. And so I'm
sorry to interrupt you, but we're doing really good on time. So we actually have a couple minutes, and we could maybe even, if people have a couple questions, we could take 1 or 2 minutes to do that before we have to jump into the Skillshare.
And I'm going to drink some coffee. Yay!
Yeah, so, sorry. A question from me is, in terms of, Two-Spirit peoples and just the history, because I'm not that familiar with it, how was that identity carried? How was it, held by the community during this moment of the boarding school? So was it held still in community by Two-Spirit folks? Did it how did the generation that went through the boarding school experience, how were they able to relearn that piece?
So for let's call the residential boarding school, that is colonization at its finest, right? Mm-hmm. And so anything native was against the law. And so there was quite literally this underground discussion. We weren't able to do our ceremonies. I find it really odd, in the United States, that Native Americans were exempt from the Constitution, the First Amendment, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. Uh-huh. It wasn't until August 11th, 1978, with the passage of the American Indian Religious Freedom, did we gain the right to practice our religion. Which flies, contrary to this whole mythology that you have these people that were being religiously persecuted in some far off island, and then they came here for religious freedom, and what did they do? Made it illegal for the indigenous people to practice their religion. Mm-hmm. So And I know that I have stories from elders that would like go way up north and they would hold ceremony, you know, and they kept the words and they kept these ways to they kept these ways going, right? But it's highly problematic that some of these ceremonies, some of these words, and some of this history and experience of our Two-Spirit people are gone forever. And that is the really sad part.
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't remember the words, don't remember our ceremonies, and don't remember our roles. But there are some, and a part of this whole reclamation that is going on is that people are bringing what they kind of remember, bringing it forth and welcoming us back into our communities.
Okay. Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Angel, did you have a question?
Yeah, Harlan, thank you so much for all this wonderful information. I was super excited about this. But as a person of color, how can like Black people and of the clan, like how can we help or not help, but like how can we love and support to the movement? What can we bring to that is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. Thank you so much. And although you were cutting out, I believe what is like, how can you stand in solidarity with us? Is that nod? Yes? Perfect. So quite simply, what I would suggest is one is on a very base level is any time that you're given a mic, positionality is to do land acknowledgments. What land and what territory are you standing on? And where are you from? And to also acknowledge that oftentimes we stand on indigenous land, we don't acknowledge that. It would be like me walking into your home and not acknowledging that it's your home. So that is, I think, one. But to really take that to heart, you know. And secondly is that, you know, when I'm sitting in a room and I look around and I don't see any of my African American brothers and sisters, I say, where are my African American brothers and sisters? And again, it's using my privilege not to speak for the African American or any other like group that I want to stand in solidarity with, but is to use my voice to say and to create a space to welcome them to the table and say, where are they, you know? And I think that there are many, many spaces that we have influence in and that we can basically, one, do land acknowledgements, and then two, create a space that are welcoming for our Two-Spirit people. We are everywhere. But however, we are often ignored, marginalized, and never ever given any thought or mind. And so that, I think, is the unfortunate part about who we are as Two-Spirit people. So again, we must acknowledge this time and this place that we sit in the worldwide internet of carving out a time to talk about Two-Spirit issues. That is amazing.
Yeah, totally. I know that's something that I try to put into practice, especially like traveling to new lands and things like that. We say like ashe, so it's like we'll say, you know, thank you so much for allowing us to be here. Something like that, ashe, or water, or whatever. Out, you know, standing in public. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And again, just type in, like, there is a really cool website, but you're like, the Native Americans of Maryland, and it'll pull up. And so before you talk is just to acknowledge the fact of what land are you standing on. And I think that is a powerful act of defiance, but it's also standing in solidarity. But it also brings the conversation is like, wow, we're standing on someone else's land. Why aren't they here part of this discussion? So let's share that with you. Thank you so much. All right, back to the presentation, and those are two great questions. Thank you so much. So this curriculum that I'm developing is called Amp It Up, and it's a media training that is focused for Native and or Two-Spirit community organizers. But I share it with you just so that I can share it with what we are, what we're doing, and perhaps there's something in this curriculum that may speak to you. Again, for the curriculum is, and for this work, is I use this KISS principle. Keep it simple, silly. And so Amp It Up is designed to provide individuals and organizations the tools or the skill set necessary to meeting their communication goals for effective media work. Now, a part of this whole thing is it all starts with plans, right? You know, and creating an event, and we'll be talking about the worksheet in a little bit. But quite literally, every time I do an event, I pull up this worksheet and I fill in information. Or what we do is we divvy it up by committee, and every committee has their own little point. And once we populated the entire worksheet through that planning process, then it becomes a point of reference for the development of a communication plan to amplify our work. We build relationship with media professionals as well as community members, and we go back to that worksheet to come up with our talking points so that we can talk more effectively with print and or TV or radio interviews. We can also use that worksheet to come up with our, our media advisory, our press release, and for us in the Native community is what is a media advisory, what is a press release, and what are their tools and functions. So it's basically the language to amplify our voices through the media. And so the thing that, I will share real quickly that I was a part of this organizing effort to bring for the Two-Spirit people to march within the Vancouver Pride Parade. And we created a beautiful glossy flyer, and there was the co-sponsorship between the Canadian Aboriginal AIDS Network as well as the twospiritjournal.com and a business called Salmon and Bannock, which was a restaurant. And what we did was we broadcasted that flyer to everyone in Vancouver. And so our intentionality was not to have 3,000 people show up. We obviously don't have the capacity for that, right? But it was through our outreach efforts was to bring attention that the Two-Spirit community is here and that we are participating in the Pride Parade. And in the end, we had about 40 folks that showed up. And it met our goals of broadcasting it so people knew that we were here, and we're Two-Spirit and we're proud. But it was also to invite folks too. So there was all of these objectives that we clearly laid out in our plan of what we were going to do. I'm going to put in the chat the worksheet, a link to the worksheet, and so it'll be on the bottom right-hand side of this, how we work to plan the, for event planning. All right, and if we click on that link, it'll take you to this worksheet. And what I would like to do is, as soon as it loads, there it looks perfect. What I'm not going to do all of the perfect. To make a copy, and then you can have your own little private worksheet that you can work on. And what I would like you to do is, if you have an existing or an upcoming event, I would like you to, there's a highlighted, the event name is to populate that field and put it in your event name. And there is, out of all of the sections, there's two sections that I highlighted that I would like to just kind of focus in. The objectives, what are you trying to accomplish? And I have some 3 questions to prompt you through the, to help you with working out the objectives is, what do you want to accomplish from the event? What kind of ripple do you want to have at the event? And who do you want to engage in the event? So these questions are incredibly important in that, if you are trying to to shape the public discussion or enter into a policy discussion, right? That should be a point, and that's going to like change the way that you are going to like structure that and who you're going to partner with and how you're going to message your event, right? Where if your objective is to have fun, you quite literally put, have fun, right? And that it's who you're going to partner with and what are you going to do. Like if it's just merely to have fun, you're going to pull out the Ferris wheel, and have fun. But if you don't set a clear goal of what do you want to accomplish, and the accomplishment, like I just shared with you about the Pride Parade outreach, the Pride Parade outreach was to broadcast quite loudly to the entire community with that beautiful flyer that we did, was that we were here. And we accomplished that by getting it out, distributed to all of the Native organizations and all of the LGBT organizations of like saying, hey, Two-Spirit people are here and we're going to be marching in the Pride Parade. And then the second question, and this comes from your objectives, is how do we stand in community? And that is going to impact your outreach, right? Or community organizational sponsorship. And how I always say is co-sponsorship is to merely share with their membership about the event. So identify like-minded leaders to stand in the community with you, and you approach them and say, hey, I'm doing an event. Can you co-sponsor it? And they're like, we don't have any money. We don't need money. We just need you to help us and disseminate and get into that community. Get into your community, and so that we can start building that solidarity and that mutual support of one another. And the other thing is partnering with other groups and organizations can build a stronger network and getting the news outlets involved into a broader reach. And so what I would like to do is and there's like, again, it's like there's a down and dirty budget, just to start the conversation and for you to start thinking about how we do the event planning. But once everything has been filled in this worksheet, wherever possible, it becomes the driver for your entire communication plan, but also the event and or action. So what I would like you to do is to take a couple of minutes and to start working on your event name, if you have one, and just put your event name and then just type in your initials so that we can keep them separate, and then start working on your objectives. And then from your objectives is how is that going to influence who you're going to partner with? Can you nod if you're understanding? Perfect. Yay. And then what we will do is we'll have a little bit of a group process, and then what we can do is just discuss and work through. And also I'd like to hear what you think of this this worksheet.
Harlan, how long do we have to work with this before we're going to come back and share?
I would say, let me go to, I would say like 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Or 3 minutes.
Then for people who are watching the live stream now, or if you're watching this on YouTube later, the link to this the link to this worksheet is available on the Skillshare page. If you scroll down the page a little bit, in the right-hand column, there will be 3 links, one to the presentation that Harlan presented, one to a facilitation guide for the whole workshop, and one to this, this worksheet that we're filling out now. So you can go ahead and click on that if you're watching live now, or if you're checking out this video later. And we'll be back in a few minutes.
Yay. while we are working, do you mind if I just talk a little bit more about the curriculum, or is it going to be too distracting? Okay. So the curriculum also, again, you know, the formal dance that happens within media about like what is a media advisory and what is appropriate to issue and what are the key components of media advisory, and then what goes into a press release, right? And you know, I know that before I started to do this and using these tools of the media, it became like kind of a numbers game. And so like when 16 people would show up at an event, I'd always like feel let down because, you know, it's only 16 people. However, after I started using the worksheet, doing a media advisory, doing some pre-interviews, both print and radio, and then also issuing a press release with our own pictures and our own images, and then it being picked up by the press and other like blogs and or, you know, other traditional and even non-traditional press, is although 16 people showed up at the game, or so showed up at the event, because of the advanced work of using the media advisory, it got into like different presses, and because of the press release was picked up, or it was a radio interview. Those 16 folks that showed up for that event, because it was picked up by other media sources, quite literally could be like a couple of hundred or maybe 1,000 people were touched by the event or knew of the event. And so that's what this amplification of our voices, in which that, you know, for us as Native and Two-Spirit people, because we're such a small population, is the only way that we're ever going to get a blip or get some sort of attention is by amplifying our voices and by using media in a much more savvier way. And so that's a hard skill set, is how do you influence the discussion and amplify your discussions and your conversations. So this training is for that, for Native and or Two-Spirit people, of amplification of our voices. And it's also, you know, kind of cool in that quite literally you could have 20 people that show up in an event, but if you've done a proper media and communication plan and executed it, that 20 people could grow to around 2,000 people that have engaged and worked and have heard about the event, and it's built off of that 20. And that way, you don't feel like discouraged only because you had 16 people that showed up. You had multiple people that didn't show up at the event but know of you, know of the event, know that what is going on, and then you start influencing the broader conversation, and hopefully sometimes if you're doing policy work that you shift the policy discussion. So how are we with the answering of the questions, and can we go to some sort of discussion? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. One. I don't know if an eyebrow scratching. Okay, cool. So let's unmute and just can you share a little bit about what your event you're working on and your objectives? Have you thought about this? And then I would also like to evaluate is some sort of like discussion around the curriculum and what your thoughts around the curriculum are.
Dee, do you want to go first?
Sure. So when kind of thinking about this idea of a dual strategy in one, getting people to your event, but also getting the word out there and getting, using that as an opportunity of people really seeing you. I was thinking about recent application that we built for this network that we have, because I do a lot of community wireless work in Detroit, and we've been wanting to get people to adopt this this network. So I was thinking about having an event that's specifically about storytelling, that then those stories can then live on this network. So then within that event, the purpose of it being to both collect stories, but to also like start a conversation about the gentrification of the neighborhood, but also start to think about the digital world as this kind of place where we can archetype our own neighborhoods. And so seeing that as an opportunity to kind of have that exchange while having a really fun event where we can share stories and build relationships.
Cool.
Yeah. But then also seeing like the outreach of that with the press releases is getting this phone number out where people can call and leave stories, so no matter what, if they come or not, we can still collect stories.
Yeah. Joran?
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking of the South Atlanta Youth Assembly that we're working on to bring together the youth in South Atlanta from multiple schools and not school to discuss what issues they face. And I think for me, what was really striking was thinking about this, what are the like-minded thought leaders that we need to partner with, and really having a better understanding of, personally for me, the youth leaders who are already present and working and where they fit, and really needing, I think, to figure out how we're connecting and sitting with each other, and really thinking about that. And that's not something that I've thought about right now. So needing to do that work.
Cool. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dee. That was... Elsa?
Well, Elisa?
Oh, I'm sorry, Elisa.
Sorry. So thinking about this, I was thinking about an annual event that we always have, and it's called Paseo por the West Side. And so it also focuses on like storytelling and things like that, and just trying to not just get the local community involved, but also make sure that the rest of San Antonio kind of knows that the stories that we're getting from the people in the West Side are valuable, and they also have historical value. And so at this event, we give like tours of our street banners, our museum, and we like preserve and share stories from elders. And so I'm kind of new to this kind of organizing world and things like that. So just having this worksheet, I think, would be kind of helping me work through that event, and just trying to find like people that we can team up with in like the local community, because I know we do coalition work sometimes, but it's just about me like learning who can really help for like this event and who has those skills for like getting the word out that we're here and that our stories matter. So
cool. Thank you.
I'll go next. So I was filling out the worksheet, and I was thinking of the this Skillshare series actually that we're doing with the Transformative Media Organizing Project. So we do these Skillshares once a month, and we're trying to find ways to make them engaging and publicize them and get both like our network, at them, but also promote them more broadly to people who can watch them on the live stream. And the next one that's coming up is the NOLA GSA net that Anthony is going to be doing. And Anthony sends his love, but is at the march that Breakout and others are organizing right now for Trans Day of Remembrance. So they're out in the streets right now. So I was just like working on the worksheet, thinking about different ways that we could help promote Anthony's event, like as a network, and support the work that they're trying to do, locally in NOLA by making it more visible, nationally, and also to like contacts that we all might have there. So I think this is very helpful for thinking, especially the question about partners and networks and how like who can you partner with to amplify the impact that your event's going to have and connect with more people, even if they can't physically come there. So thank you for sharing this, Harlan.
Oh, thank you. And last but not least.
Hi again. So something that I'm working on back in Alabama is to do, because we know the holiday season is coming up, and for a lot of queer, trans folks of color, you know, we get pushed out of our homes, like if we come out and things like that. And I just know, like in my family, like, you know, the holiday. So I was planning the event to do like a chosen family holiday, like extravaganza. And like I wanted, and it's the question, what kind of ripple do you want to have with this event? And I want to do this for every major holiday. And then who do you want to engage for this event? And I put queer, trans, people of color, young folks specifically. And then as far as like outreach and community organizational co-sponsorship, I didn't get that far yet because I was still trying to process everything. But I think that this is really helpful. Like even here at Knowledge, this is such a great worksheet to have because like when it comes to outreach and stuff like that, like sometimes it's like a difficult time doing that effectively. We do our outreach and it does work well, but I feel like this will help a lot in a lot of different ways, and like being able just to see it on paper and doing it like that, I think will work really well for us. So thank you so much, Harlan, for creating something that I'm going to be using for a long time.
Sure. If I could just drill down, because I would like to tease out and use just one example, right? I would also like you to like give yourself freedom, as well as a little bit more like, and I know that this you were given like 4 minutes, right? So, but like for your target, like who do you want? What was the question again? Who do you want to impact? Like your last question, you said LGBTQ POC, right? But I think that I would actually ask you to broaden that, right? Although that's your target audience, you may want to add like a fourth question or a fourth objective of, I think that, you know, mainstream service providers have to know that family of choice, and this is an event that is celebrating a family of choice and not your blood relatives, right? And there you start shifting the conversation, and who do you stand in allyship of your like other partners of like saying there's an event that's happening that's not your family, you know, like your blood family holiday party, but this is around family of choice. And that now begins to shift the conversation of like people of going, hey, what's this family of choice and why is it important and what's going on here, right? And now that rippling effect starts compounding on it, because it's an event that's for your community around this construct around the holidays and family of choice and the social support that offers and that celebration of that. But it then is an educational moment that can be used to impact, and then you can find other folks to stand in solidarity with you, and not only the event, but also around this concept around holidays and family of choice. And there, I think, is where you start shifting and working for social change, because you are now shifting the policy discussion or the broader conversation. And so I share that with all of your events, is that think creatively around how can you maximize the discussion or the public discourse if you want, because you're putting all of this energy into bringing folks together and doing an action, but it is how do we then start building upon that and amplifying it so that it becomes teachables, a teachable moment, or not even teachable, so that other people can learn, right? And I'm not saying that you invite all these people to your event. You say, hi, stand in community, stand in solidarity, and help me create this event, but it also educates them the purpose of the event. Why is it important for you all to do the work that you are doing? And so you don't want, and so it may be family of choice, and quite simply it becomes the rest of the community coming also to celebrate you and stand in solidarity, and that is also family of choice. So I often think about there can be multiple objectives, and that's going to influence how you organize and structure and how you think about your event. But I ultimately say is to try to be as creative as possible and put your wishes down of like, what ripple effects do you really want? So I just shared that with you quick. Now, we have about 5 minutes left. I would love if we could just create a space. I know that I gave you all a lot of information on the Two-Spirit community, as well as for this this curriculum that is in the works right now. So thank you very much for your feedback and offering, and for kind of just like trying it on. And so I would like to say, just open this up for like the last like 3 or 4 minutes for anything that is on your heart or on your mind for you to share or to ask questions and to engage with anything that was discussed within this this Skillshare. And finally, I see that there is also an evaluation for this Skillshare. So just make sure that you click on that and answer that also. Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you so much, Harlan. This is really amazing, Skillshare and information, and the presentation that you gave us about history was so powerful. And Angel is asking if we could uplift some names of trans folks who have transitioned on, and ones who are still here. And yeah, that's a great idea. Does anyone want to start?
I would like to start real quickly with all of those historical pictures that I shared. Atish, Wiwa, Hustin Kla. Those are our trans folks that challenge the binary and that have gone on and have been called home to their creator. And so I must honor my, and as well as other Native folks that have been called on.
Ashe, Ashe. I want to lift up the name of my best friend who passed away September 28th of 2015, Skylar Lee. He was an amazing API trans activist in Madison, Wisconsin. And I also want to lift up the name of Blake. And he was also an amazing Black trans activist, doing the damn thing all of the time. And for all of the trans sisters who put their lives this year to transphobia, misogyny, trans candidates, I want to uplift their names. And to all the Two-Spirit folks, who challenged the binary, who did their thing, and who made sure that they passed on as much information as they could, I want to uplift them as well. Ashe. Oh, and also to all the trans people, the non-binary folks out here still surviving, still doing it every single day. Everybody who's just making it, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to my family for just going and having the resilience and the power and the strength. Man, what a time to be alive. Ashe.
Great, thank you. Thank you all. We have about 1 minute left. In my language, how we say thank you to the group, a formal thank you to a group is kinonas kamitanan. An informal thank you is hi hi. And we actually don't have a goodbye. We have the closest thing that we have to a goodbye in Cree is kinonas. examaga. And examaga translates into that's it for now, which is like, that's it for now, or, you know, until then, and that we don't have a definitive goodbye. So again, kinonas gamitanan, examaga.
Hi, hi.
Hi, hi.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.